Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about my must-draft running backs after the first round of current ADP. Inside of today's video, I'm going to be going in-depth into 3 running backs that I believe to be must-draft candidates based upon where they are going at their current average draft position following the first round of drafts. But before we get into this deep dive, this in-depth breakdown of these running backs, I would like to ask, if you are new to the YouTube channel and you do end up enjoying today's video, to please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out content here every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you're down there, whether you are new to the channel or not, please make sure that you hit that like button down below to help boost this video up the algorithm so that more beautiful people like yourself can see today's video. I would also like to let you guys know that my rankings are available for free on awesemo.com. The link to the rankings will be down below in the description, as well as in the pinned comment. I also write articles on awesemo.com every single day. They will also be linked in the description and in the pinned comment. If you want to help me out, the best way to do it, besides subscribing and liking the video, is by checking out my rankings and my articles on the website. So without further ado, let's get into the video. So my first must-draft running back after the first round of current ADP is David Montgomery, running back of the Chicago Bears. Composite ADP right now, he is sitting at running back number 16. Most of the times in drafts, you see him go anywhere from the 3rd to the 4th round of drafts. Most of the time, I've seen him go off the board inside of the 4th round, but don't be surprised if he gets taken inside of the 3rd round, because as you guys know, early on in fantasy football drafts, the running backs just fly off the board. In 15 games last year, David Montgomery finished as the running back number 4 in PPR, as well as in half PPR, and the running back number 6 in standard, averaging 17.7 PPR points per game, 15.9 half PPR points per game, and 14.1 standard points per game. Meaning, from points per game perspective, he was the running back number 8 in PPR, 9 in half PPR, and the running back number 10 in standard. Now, if you guys were watching my videos last year, you guys would know that I was playing the fucking metaphorical bagpipes for David Montgomery like I was in Braveheart. I was banging the drums aggressively, telling you guys to aggressively attack David Montgomery in your fantasy drafts and to get him on your team. But to truly understand what happened last year for David Montgomery, you almost have to kind of split the season in 2. You have to start with understanding week 1 through 9, and then you have to understand the end of the season, where this guy went on an absolute murder spree of these defenses from week 12 to 17. And there is also a distinction between the first 3 weeks and the weeks following week number 3 in his 2020 NFL season. And the reason to make that distinction is because Tariq Cohen only played in the first 3 games of the 2020 NFL season, and then he ended up missing the whole season with an injury. And the reason why I believe this to be so important is because once Tariq Cohen ended up getting hurt, you could really easily see the uptick in targets going David Montgomery's way. When Tariq Cohen is healthy, David Montgomery isn't really seeing the amount of dump-offs coming from the quarterback that you would want to see when you draft a running back early on in fantasy drafts. Now, does that mean that David Montgomery is going to be completely and utterly irrelevant without the dump-offs coming his way? No, but it is an important distinction to make. So game number 1 up against the Detroit Lions, he saw 3 targets. The next week, 3 targets. The week after that, 3 targets, and that's with Tariq Cohen. But then, after Tariq Cohen went down, we see a game with 6 targets, 8 targets, 5 targets, 5 targets, 3 targets, 6 targets, 4 targets, 4 targets, 2 targets, 2 targets, and 9 targets. So on average, David Montgomery was averaging much more targets once Tariq Cohen was out, which would make a lot of sense because Tariq Cohen's build of a running back, the reason why they use him on the team is not to be some inside the tackles running back. That's not what the man is built to do. He's like 5'6", 150 pounds. Now, that's not exactly how tall he is, exactly how big he is, but if you guys have ever seen Tariq Cohen, he looks like a small child on the NFL football field. Again, nothing to knock about Tariq Cohen. He made it in the NFL. He's a good player, but that is kind of worrisome for David Montgomery, is the Tariq Cohen timeline for return. Now, it appears right now, and it has appeared for at least the last couple of months, that Cohen will not be ready to go for week number 1. And I believe this to be a very important reason why I'm happy to draft David Montgomery, because I believe Matt Nagy Nagy to not be the greatest of coaches. Now, apparently, Matt Nagy is a very good players coach. He's good for the locker room, but in my opinion, I don't think he makes the best decisions. But if David Montgomery is to dominate in the receiving game like we saw last season after Tariq Cohen got hurt, I'm not too sure how much Tariq Cohen will be involved once he returns. Now, I assume it will somewhat chip away at David Montgomery's receiving numbers once Tariq Cohen is back, but we also still don't know exactly when Cohen's going to be back. It may be a couple of games into the season, so with that injury having occurred and it taking out Tariq Cohen for potentially the start of this season, I think that helps David Montgomery out a whole ton. On the season, David Montgomery had 247 carries, 16.47 per game, ranking 4th at the running back position for 1,070 rushing yards, 71.33 per game, ranking 5th at the running back position, as well as 68 targets, one more target off of being very nice with 69, 4.5 per game, number 6 at running back, 54 receptions, 3.6 per game, ranking 5th at running back with a grand total of 438 receiving yards, 29.2 per game, ranking 4th, and 10 total tutties on the season, ranking 10th at the running back position. So David Montgomery, as a whole, when you put everything into a sandwich together, David Montgomery had an excellent season. He even had 54 red zone touches, 3.6 per game, ranking 6th at the running back position. So you could easily see a way that maybe David Montgomery doesn't finish as a, say, top 10 running back, a top 8 running back, maybe even a top 5 running back, because I think the potential for finishing as a top 5 guy would require Tariq Cohen to probably miss the whole season, or Matt Nagy to fucking dribble the guy around and throw him into the garbage can and not use him at all for David Montgomery to eclipse that top 5, that top 8 status. But it is entirely possible that getting drafted outside of the top 12, that David Montgomery can be a top 12 running back, especially once Justin Fields takes over, because my belief is once Justin Fields takes over, that this offense is going to go into the next level. They are going to hit overdrive. They are going to be like in the Millennium Falcon when they hit that button and they go super fast. I forgot exactly what it is called. I am a fan of the Star Wars movies, but I haven't watched them in a while. That's what I'm talking about. They are going fast as fuck. This offense is going to completely shift from being an offense that I think won't look the greatest with Andy Dalton, probably look exactly the same as last year, to an offense with under Justin Fields to look very, very solid. And I believe this defense is yet again going to be very strong. And if the offense is able to keep up, to keep these defenses kind of on their toes, to be up later on in the game, that David Montgomery could be seeing a whole ton of rushing opportunity later in games, which is something that Tariq Cohen cannot really take away from David Montgomery. I haven't been someone all offseason who's been super high up on David Montgomery, but I've continued to see him kind of fall into a range where I'm very excited to draft David Montgomery for fantasy football in 2021. So he is my first must-draft running back after the first round of current ADP. So let me know down below in the comment section what you think about each of these running backs that I'm going to talk about in today's video. Next up, we have running back of the Jacksonville Jaguars, James Robinson. Composite ADP right now is running back number 21, but if I'm being honest with you, that's a bit fake, if I'm being honest with you guys, because he's getting drafted in like the 3rd or 4th round every single time near David Montgomery. So his ADP is really probably running back like 17 or 18, but it has skyrocketed up the board after the injury to Travis Etienne, and for good reason. If Travis Etienne was healthy right now, James Robinson would be not even mentioned inside of this video. He is right now coming off the board, like I said, as running back 21, but I would definitely, at least in my head, put him closer to running back 15, 16, or 17. Finished in 14 games last season as the RB number 7 in PPR, as well as in half PPR, and same thing goes with in standard, averaging 17.9 PPR points per game, 16.1 half PPR points per game, and 14.4 standard points per game, ranking 7th in PPR points per game, 8th in half PPR points per game, and running back number 7 in standard points per game. So James Robinson had probably the craziest and most unexpected season out of a running back, at least of recent memory. Basically, everyone, including myself, was not on board with James Robinson to start off the season. I thought that the other running backs were going to be much more involved on this team, but eventually James Robinson just had a complete and utter stranglehold over this backfield because he was dominating these defenses. And the Jacksonville Jaguars last season were far from an amazing team, which is why the argument a lot of people make for fantasy football is that your running back needs to have a great offensive line. I understand that does definitely help. But every single year inside the top 10 at the running back position, you're going to have a running back that is on a fucking terrible team with not the greatest offensive line, absolutely beat the shit out of these defenses and finish as a top 10 running back, maybe even inside of the top 5. Now, I want to pump the brakes a little bit on a potential top 5 finish for James Robinson in 2021 because I personally believe that Urban Meyer and Carlos Hyde are like best buddies or something, to the way that Carlos Hyde is going to be able to be on the field enough to slightly edge out James Robinson's potential to finish inside of the top 5. Now, when I first heard the news about Travis Etienne getting hurt, I was a little bit more cautious about talking about how James Robinson could be a top 12 running back for fantasy football in 2021. I'm definitely not comfortable taking him inside of the second round, where I've seen him go in some drafts. I feel like his ADP and his draft position will be anywhere from the 3rd to the 4th round, depending on your draft and how ambitious people are to draft James Robinson. Now, last night, I will tell you guys that I drafted James Robinson inside the 3rd round of my 14-team league. I believe I was pick 7, so I was right in the middle the whole time, and I took James Robinson inside of the 3rd round because I believe that James Robinson could be a top 12 running back. Now, I don't have him ranked inside of the top 12 because I do believe in the fact that Carlos Hyde is going to get just enough usage to kind of squeeze James Robinson outside of the top 12. But if there was an injury to Carlos Hyde, or Urban Meyer kind of has a change of mindset and he doesn't want to use Carlos Hyde as much as I previously believed, then James Robinson really could be a top 5 running back for fantasy football in 2021. And the guy isn't even an uber efficient type of running back. He just gets enough targets, gets enough carries, and does enough with it, scores enough touchdowns to be able to elevate himself to that top 10 potential finish on the season. Last year in those 14 games, he had 240 carries, 17.14 per game, ranking 6th at the running back position, 1,070 rushing yards, 76.43 per game, ranking 5th at running back, 60 targets, 4.3 per game, ranking 11th for 49 receptions, 3.5 per game, ranking 9th, 344 receiving yards, 14th highest at running back, 24.57 per game, and 10 total tutties on the season, ranking 10th at running back with just 37 red zone touches, 2.64 per game, ranking 15th at running back. And like I said, this guy is not some uber efficient running back. And I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that he is, because if you look at the numbers, the true yards per carry doesn't really tell you that. His true yards per carry, 4.26, ranking 33rd at running back, 4.46 real yards per carry. All of these efficiency numbers are brought to you guys by Player Profiler. They don't sponsor me or anything. I'm just telling you where I'm getting this information from. But he is somewhat efficient when it comes to the evaded tackles. 79 evaded tackles last season, 5th at running back, and a 27.34% juke rate, 13th at running back. So he's not, again, some uber efficient running back, but he's able to get it done on a team that I believe was worse than the team that they have right now. Gardner Minshew, in my opinion, is a fine quarterback, but they didn't end up using him for the whole season. They pulled him for Jake Luton. Mike Glennon was even playing games last season, so you know this Jaguars offense was down tremendous. So now they have Trevor Lawrence, and I don't think Trevor Lawrence is necessarily going to light the league on fire and become like a top 10 quarterback in the NFL this season, but to me, he's a step up from what they had last year, because Gardner Minshew didn't really end up playing that many games. Had Minshew have played the whole season, I think I would have kind of a different opinion. I do believe that Lawrence is better than Minshew. There's a reason why the Jaguars traded Minshew to the Philadelphia Eagles. Video about that went up earlier today, so if you guys want to learn about that, you can check that out. But I do think that this offense will definitely look at least slightly better in 2021. And if James Robinson is able to eke out, to edge out Carlos Hyde, then man, oh man, could James Robinson finish as a top 5 running back? I believe so. And where he's going right now, I'm definitely willing to take that shot in 2021 on the upside that James Robinson presents. So next running back here on the list is running back of the New England Patriots. Composite ADP, running back number 29 off the board. This guy's ADP is on a trajectory to the moon, probably through the moon into Pluto, which may not even be a planet anymore. I don't even know the order of the planets. I forgot that shit in like 3rd grade, so I don't know if that even makes sense. I don't even think Pluto is even a planet anymore, but you guys get what I'm saying. saying Damien Harris's ADP is continuing to go up and up and up because Sony Michel got traded, and now everyone's magically ready to roll out the red fucking carpet and praise Damien Harris. What the actual fuck is that bullshit, man? Damien Harris was deserving of this red carpet treatment for the last months. What was Sony Michel going to do for Damien Harris? I don't know, and I'm sorry for yelling. I apologize for yelling here, but I don't get it at all. Damien Harris is the clear running back one on this team. Now, I understand that in this past for the Patriots, Damien Harris hasn't been some type of receiving monster. At Alabama, in college, he was a fine pass catcher. Again, not like Christian McCaffrey or Austin Eckler, who's going to get 7 zillion dump-offs, but I do believe that he could be seeing more receptions this season. And if I'm being honest with you, the more I follow the Patriots, the more I see that there is pretty good potential that Mr. Mystic Mac Jones ends up being the starter of this team eventually. Now, I'm not saying off the rip, I think Cam gets the nod, but if Cam starts to disappoint, then I think they pull the plug on Cam and they throw Mac Jones out there, and if Mac Jones is the starter, the upside for Damien Harris goes even higher because Cam Newton was going to vulture away probably a bunch of touchdowns this season from Damien Harris, but I'm still confident in him regardless. Last year, Damien Harris was one of those sleeper running backs that I was heavily advocating for. And when you draft a running back in like the 13th round, the 10th, 11th, 12th round where he was going last year, if he doesn't play up to amazing standards, who gives a fuck, right? You draft him like the 10th, 11th, 12th round, so he didn't necessarily pay off as a sleeper, but he did play quite well in those games. In 10 games, he finished as the running back number 53 in PPR, 50.5 PPR, and the RB number 44 in standard, averaging 9.1 PPR points per game, 8.9 half PPR points per game, and 8.6 standard points per game. There's a reason why the distinction between PPR points per game and standard points per game isn't very much, because like I said, he doesn't really get that many dump-offs for some reason, but he is a running back that is good enough to receive them if he has thrown the ball. From a points per game perspective, he was the running back number 39, tied with Latavius Murray, Jamal Williams, and Wayne Gallman, running back 36.5 PPR points per game, and RB number 33 in standard points per game. He had 137 carries on the season, 13.7 per game, ranking 32 at running back, 691 rushing yards. 32 highest carries, the 32nd highest carries at running back, turns it into the 21st highest rushing yards. He also had just 7 targets, 5 receptions, 52 receiving yards, and 2 total touchdowns. Now imagine what happens if the carry number goes up, which it will. It will. The carry number goes up, and he's still rushing as effectively as he did last year. And then because the carries go up, the touchdowns go up. Because the touchdowns go up, his points go up. Because Cam Newton gets benched, his opportunity to score touchdowns goes up. Now, again, I'm not 100% certain that Mac Jones is going to start a game this year. But if I had to bet on it, if it was even odds, I would tell you that I believe Mac Jones is at least going to be seeing some play time this season. You don't draft a quarterback in the first round in 99.99999% of scenarios in the NFL in today's world to bench the guy. Sure, Alex Smith played in front of Patrick Mahomes. But that's because it was Alex Smith, who was arguably a really good quarterback at that time, behind or in front of Patrick Mahomes. And then the next year, they let Patrick Mahomes out of the cage, right? And he balls out. But this is Mac Jones compared to Cam Newton. Last year, Cam Newton looked like he had a fucking pool noodle as an arm, okay? So I believe that Damien Harris will be given extra opportunity to score touchdowns and get more points if Mac Jones is the starter. I don't believe Mac Jones will start the season, but I do think he will eventually become the starter of this team. And I'm all aboard. Choo-choo, the Damien Harris train in 2021. I really talked about him ad nauseum on my channel because of my very strong beliefs for the last bunch of months about Damien Harris, but now it seems as though everyone's hopping on the train with me, and I'm still the conductor though, because it's Damien Harris season in 2021. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you did end up enjoying this video, please make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Not only is it free, I put out this content every single day to help you guys win your 2021 Fantasy Football Championship. And while you are down there, whether you are new or not, make sure you hit that like button down below. Make sure to check out my rankings and my articles as well. That is really one of the best ways to help me out. checking out the articles, checking out the rankings. So please do so if you have some free time. I love you guys. Make sure that you stay safe, and I'll see you beautiful bastards tomorrow with another banger of a video. Maybe even a video later today, but I already posted one in the morning, so I'm not too sure if I will have time to post another one. But I do love you guys. Stay safe as always. Bye.